Hydrosphere is a vast system consisting of all water on Earth, the bulk of which is in the oceans. Energy is transferred to shorelines through this enormous body of water. Therefore, it becomes important to understand the geological processes functioning on the shorelines. Shorelines is a long, narrow zone where marine processes are active, particularly waves and near-shore currents. In short, shorelines are dynamic systems where energy is consumed. Erosion takes place and sediment is transported and deposited. As a matter of fact, shorelines continuously adjust to changes such as increased or diminished sediment, supply and increased wave activity. An understanding of the shorelines is all the more significant now because in many parts of the world, the sea level is rising. Consequently, buildings that were far inland are now in danger or destroyed. The geological processes operating on shorelines provide an excellent example of systems interactions, in this case between part of the hydrosphere and the solid earth. This chapter helps you to appreciate the cause and effect relationships at work in a shoreline. You can visit any coastal area and recognize the governing processes at play by recognizing the features discussed in this chapter and associating them with their related processes. Wave characteristics. Most ocean waves derive their energy and motion from the wind. When a breeze is less than 3 km per hour, only small wavelets appear. At greater wave speeds, more stable waves gradually form and advance with the wind. Characteristics of ocean waves are illustrated as shown, which shows a simple non-breaking wave form. The tops of the waves are the crest, which are separated by troughs. Halfway between the crest and troughs is the still water level, which is the level the water could occupy if there were no waves. The vertical distance between trough and crest is called the wave height, and the horizontal distance between successive crest or troughs is the wavelength. The time it takes for one full wavelength to pass a fixed position is the wave period. The height, length, and period that are eventually achieved by a wave depend upon three factors. 1. Wind speed. 2. Length of time the wind has blown. 3. Fetch, the distance that the wind has traveled across the open water. As the quantity of energy transferred from the wind to the water increases, the height and steepness of the waves increase as well. Eventually, a critical point is reached where waves grow so tall that they topple over, forming ocean breakers called whitecaps. For a particular wind speed, there is maximum fetch and duration of wind, beyond which waves will no longer increase in size. When the maximum fetch and duration are reached for a given wind velocity, the waves are said to be fully developed. The reason that waves can grow no further is that they are losing so much energy through the breaking of whitecaps as they are receiving from the wind. When the wind stops or changes direction, or the waves leave the stormy area where they were created, they continue on without relation to local winds. The waves also undergo a gradual change to swells that are lower in height and longer in length, and may carry the storm's energy to distant shores. Because many independent wave systems exist at the same time, the sea surface acquires a complex and irregular pattern. Hence, the sea waves we watch from the shore are usually a mixture of swells from faraway storms and waves created by local winds. Coastal erosion, transportation and deposition. There are three main processes at the sea. These are erosion, transportation and deposition. Erosion. The coastal landscape is shaped by the sea. Coastal erosion is the wearing away and breaking up of rocks along the coast by wave action. Waves erode the coastline in various ways. There are four main processes which cause coastal erosion. These are corrosion, abrasion, hydraulic action, attrition and corrosion solution during corrosion or abrasion. The waves pick up beach material like pebbles and toss them at the base of a cliff. When the waves hit the base of a cliff, air is compressed into cracks. The air rushed out of the gap when the wave retreats. Often this causes the cliff material to break away. This process is called as hydraulic action. Attrition is when the waves cause rocks and pebbles to collide into each other, break and become smoother. Corrosion or solution occurs when certain types of rocks like chalk or limestone are eroded due to the acids contained in seawater. Transportation. There are various sources of materials at the sea. The material could be eroded from cliffs, transported by longshore drift along the coastside, brought inland from offshore by constructive waves, carried to the coastline by rivers. Waves can approach the coast at an angle because of the direction of the prevailing wind. The swash of the waves carries material up the beach at an angle. The backwash then flows back to the sea in a straight line at 90 degrees. This movement of material is called transportation. There are four ways that waves and tidal currents transport sediment. These can then contribute to the movement of sediment by longshore drift. Solution. Minerals are dissolved in seawater and carried in solution. The load is not visible. Load can be from cliffs made from chalk or limestone, and calcium carbonate is carried along in solution. Suspension. Small particles like silts and clay are carried in water, which makes the water look cloudy. Currents pick up large amounts of sediment in suspension during a storm, when strong winds generate high-energy waves. Saltation. Load, small pieces of shingles or large sand grains, is bounced along the seabed. Current cannot keep the heavier and larger sediment afloat from long durations. Traction. Pebbles and larger sediment are rolled along the seabed. Deposition. When the sea loses energy, it drops the sand, rock particles and pebbles it has been carrying. This is called deposition. Deposition happens when the swash is stronger and the backwash and is associated with constructive waves. The chances of deposition are more likely when waves enter an area of shallow water, waves enter a sheltered area, for example, a cove or bay. There is little wind. There is a good supply of material. Beach processes. The world's coastlines dividing land from sea are geological environments unique in their composition and the physical processes affecting them. Many of these coastlines have beaches composed of loose sediments such as gravel, sand, or mud that are constantly acted upon by waves, currents, and winds, reshaping them continuously. However, despite the different wave climate that exists around the world and the variations in coastline composition, the nature and behavior of beaches are often very similar. Beaches are sometimes called rivers of sand. The reason is that the energy from breaking waves often causes large quantities of sand to move along the beach face and in the surf zone roughly parallel to the shoreline. Wave energy also causes sand to move perpendicular toward and away from shoreline. Movement perpendicular to shoreline. If you stand ankle deep in water at the beach, you will see that swash and backwash moves and toward and away from the shoreline. Whether there is a net loss or addition of sand depends on the level of wave activity. When wave activity is relatively light, less energetic waves, much of swash soaks into the beach, which reduces the backwash. Consequently, the swash dominates and causes a net movement of sand up the beach face toward the berm. When the high energy waves prevail, the beach is saturated from previous waves. So much less of the swash soaks in. As a result, the berm erodes because backwash is strong and causes a net movement of sand down the beach face. Along many beaches, light wave activity is the rule during the summer. Therefore, a white sand berm gradually develops. During winter, when storms are frequent and more powerful, strong wave activity erodes and narrows the berm. A white berm that may have taken months to build can be dramatically narrowed in just a few hours by the high energy waves created by a strong winter storm. Wave refraction. The bending of waves, called wave refraction, plays an important part in shorelines processes. It affects the distribution of energy along the shore and thus strongly influences where and to what degree erosion, sediment, transport and deposition will take place. Waves seldom approach the shore straight on. Rather, most waves move toward the shore at an angle. However, when they reach the shallow water of a smoothly sloping bottom, they are bent and tend to become parallel to the shore. Such bending occurs because the part of the wave nearest to the shore reaches shallow water and slows first, whereas the end that is still in deep water continues forward at its full speed. The net result is a wave front that may approach nearly parallel to the shore regardless of the original direction of the wave. Because of refraction, wave impact is concentrated against the sides and ends of headlands that project into the water, whereas wave attack is weakened in base. Because the waves reach the shallow water in front of the headland sooner than they do in adjacent bays, they are bent more nearly parallel to the producing land and strike it from all three sides. By contrast, refraction in the base causes waves to diverge and expend less energy. In these zones of weakened wave activity, sediments can accumulate and form sheltered sandy beaches. Over a long period, erosion of the headlands and deposition in the bays will straighten an irregular shoreline. Beach drift and longshore currents. Although waves are refracted, most still reach the shore at an angle, however slight. Consequently, the uprush of water from each breaking wave, the swash, is not head-on, but oblique. However, the backwash is straight down the slope of the beach. The effect of this pattern of water movement is to transport particles of sediment in a zigzag pattern along the beach face. This movement is called beach drift, and it can transport sand and pebbles hundreds or even thousands of meters each day. However, a more typical rate is 5 to 10 meters per day. Oblique waves also produce currents within the surf zone that flow parallel to the shore and move substantially more sediment than beach drift. Because the water here is turbulent, these longshore currents easily move the fine suspended sand and roll larger sand and gravel along the bottom. When the sediment transported by longshore current is added to the quantity moved by beach drift, the total can be very large. At Sandy Hook, New Jersey in USA, for example, the quantity of sand transported along the shore over a 48-year period averaged almost 750,000 tons annually. For a 10 years period at Oxnard, California, more than 1.5 million tons of sediment moved along the shore each year. Both rivers and coastal zones move water and sediment from one area upstream to another downstream. Beach drift and longshore currents, however, move in a zigzag pattern, whereas rivers flow mostly in a turbulent, swirling fashion. Additionally, the direction of flow of longshore currents along a shoreline can change, whereas rivers flow in the same direction, downhill. Longshore currents change direction because the direction that waves approach the beach changes seasonally. Types of beaches. Every beach has a feature that makes it a particular type of beach. Beaches differ in shape based on the forces that created them. Cove beaches. Cove beaches form when water beats stones and stone structures over the course of a number of years. Heavy winds and salt deposits from the ocean work together to sweep granite and other minerals into the oceans, helping form a shoreline. Cove beaches will often have sandstones along the coasts with a highly visible rock formation nearby. Cove beaches are rockier than reflective or sand beaches. Reflective beaches. Reflective beaches have low wave energy. Beach faces are often steep and narrow, and the sand is coarser. Reflective beaches are not good for surfing because their wave energy is weak, not giving surfaces a chance to showcase their talents. Waves also break closer to the shore, which is a result of the steep beach face. Beaches of this nature often have sudden drop-offs from shallow to deep waters. Dissipative beach. Dissipative beaches are good for surfers because of the wide zones and high tides that are a result of winds and little to no barriers. These beaches are wide in length and have few obstacles to deal with, like rock formations. This beach is shallow and gradually reaches deep waters. Dissipative beaches are not as sloped as reflective beaches. Shoreline features. A fascinating assortment of shoreline features can be observed along the world's coastal regions. These shoreline features vary depending on the type of rocks exposed along the shores, the intensity of waves, the nature of coastal currents, and whether the coast is stable, sinking, or rising. Features that owe their origin primarily to the work of erosion are called erosional features, while deposits of sediment produce depositional features. Erosional features. Erosion by waves can create unique landforms. Over millions of years, wave erosion can create wave-cut cliffs, sea arches or sea stacks. Wave-cut cliffs form when waves erode a rocky shoreline. They create a vertical wall of exposed rock layers. Sea arches are formed when waves erode both sides of a cliff. This creates a hole in the cliff. Sea stacks are formed when waves erode the top of a sea arch. This leaves behind pillars of rock. Landforms from wave deposition. As we understood earlier, material that is transported by waves along a coastline is eventually deposited. This deposition process forms distinctive deposition features. They are beaches, spits, bars, and tombolos. Beaches. They are the prime features of deposition found at the coast. These consist of all the material, sand shingles, that has built up between the high and low tide mark. There are a number of different sources of beach material, the main source being rivers, where fine muds and gravels are deposited at the river mouth. Other sources of beach material include longshore drift, bringing material from elsewhere along the coast. Constructive waves, bringing material up the beach from the sea and from cliff erosion. As constructive waves build up beaches, they often form ridges in the beach known as berms. The berm highest up the beach represents the extent to which the water has reached during high tide. Spits. Spits are long narrow ridges of sand and shingle which project from the coastline into the sea. The formation of a spit begins due to a change in the direction of a coastline. The main source of material building up a spit is from longshore drift, which brings material from further down the coast. Example: Spurn Head, Holderness Coast on the east coast of England, and Orford Ness, Suffolk Coast, UK. Bars. These form in the same way as a spit initially, but bars are created where a spit grows across a bay. Joining two headlands, behind the bar, a lagoon is created, where water has been trapped, and the lagoon may gradually be infilled as a salt marsh develops due to it being a low energy zone, which encourages deposition. Example of a bar: Slapton Sands, Devon. Tombolos. Tombolos are formed where a spit continues to grow outwards, joining land to an offshore island. Example: Chesil Beach, which joins the South Dorset coast to the Isle of Portland. Stabilizing the shore. Today, the coastal zone teems with human activity. Unfortunately, people often treat the shorelines as if it were a stable platform on which structures can be built safely. This approach jeopardizes both people and the shorelines because many coastal landforms are relatively fragile, short-lived features that are easily damaged by development. And as anyone who has endured a tropical storm or tsunami knows, the shoreline is not always a safe place to live. Compared with natural hazards such as earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, and landslides, shoreline erosion appears to be a more continuous and predictable process that causes relatively modest damage to limited areas. In reality, the shorelines is a dynamic place that can change rapidly in response to natural forces. Exceptional storms are capable of eroding beaches and cliffs at rates that far exceed the long-term average. Such bursts of accelerated erosion not only have a significant impact on the natural evolution of a coast, but can also have a profound impact on people who reside in the coastal zone. Erosion along our coast causes significant property damage. Huge sums are spent annually not only to repair damage but also to prevent or control erosion. Already a problem at many sites, shorelines erosion is certain to become increasingly serious as extensive coastal development continues. Although the same processes cause change along every coast, not all coasts respond in the same way. Interactions among different processes and the relative importance of each process depend on local factors, which include proximity of a coast to sediment-laden rivers, degree of tectonic activity, topography and composition of land, prevailing winds and weather patterns, configuration of the coastline and nearshore areas. Even though coastline erosion is a natural occurrence, it is a steadily advancing threat to coastal areas because of changes in climate and human activities. At beaches, tides regularly sweep rocks and sand along the coast. But coastal development can interrupt the process and slowly destroy them. As climate change occurs, rocky coastlines are increasingly threatened by extreme weather such as storms and higher watermarks due to warming temperatures. During the past 100 years, growing affluence and increasing demands for recreation have brought unprecedented development to many coastal areas. As both the number and the value of a structure have increased, so too have efforts to protect property from storms, waves by stabilizing the shore. Also, controlling the natural migration of sand is an ongoing struggle in many coastal areas. Such interference can result in unwanted changes that are difficult and expensive to correct. Conclusion. In this chapter, we discussed about the geological processes that occur on the shorelines, and we also discussed about wave erosion. We have studied the following aspects in this chapter. The shore is the area extending between the lowest tide level and the highest elevation on land that is affected by storm waves. The coast extends inland from the shore as far as ocean-related features can be found. A beach is an accumulation of sediment found along the landward margin of the ocean or a lake. Among its parts are one or more berms and the beach face. Beaches are composed of whatever material is locally abundant and should be thought of as material in transit along the shore. Waves are moving energy, and most ocean waves are initiated by the wind. The three factors that influence the height, wavelength, and period of a wave are wind speed, length of the time the wind has blown and fetch, the distance the wind has traveled across open water. Wave erosion is caused by wave impact pressure and abrasion, the saving and grinding action of water armed with rock fragments. The bending of waves is called wave refraction. Owing to refraction, wave impact is concentrated against the sides and ends of headlands. Four main processes cause coastal erosion: corrosion abrasion, hydraulic action, attrition, and corrosion solution. Transportation is the movement of material in the sea and along the coast by waves. The movement of material along the coast is called longshore drift. Deposition is when eroded material is dropped by the constructive waves. Features produced by shoreline erosion include wave-cut cliffs, which originate from the cutting action of the surf against the base of coastal land. Wave-cut platforms, relatively flat, bench-like surfaces left behind by receding cliffs. Sea arches and sea stacks. Deposition creates a range of landforms. We discussed about beaches, spits, bars, and tombolos with examples. Local factors that influence shoreline erosion are the proximity of a coast to sediment, laden rivers, the degree of tectonic activity, topography and composition of land, prevailing winds and weather patterns, and the configuration of the coastline and near shore area.